What's up everyone, thanks for watching. Today I'm just making a quick video on how I make my bench dogs for my workbenches. This is a pretty common method for constructing round bench dogs and they only take a few minutes to make. I'm starting with a 3/4 inch oak dowel, which is a little tight fitting for the workbench right now, so I'm taking my block plane and just shaving a little bit off, and then I'll clean everything up with some 150 grit sandpaper. After slightly reducing the diameter of the rod, I'll just give it a test fit into the workbench to make sure that it slides in and out of every hole. These can fit kind of loose, they don't have to be super snug. Next I'm going to mark out the length of the bench dogs. My workbench is about 4 inches thick, so I'm going to make each dog about 5 inches long. Then I'll make all the cuts using a crosscut saw and a bench hook. After cutting everything to length, I'll just clean up all the saw marks with some 150 grit sandpaper. Now I can set my square, mark down 5/8 of an inch, and then mark in on that same side 5/8 of an inch. Now I'll draw a line connecting the two marks that I made. These are all rough measurements and you don't have to get it perfect. You could just play around and figure out what works best for you. Now that everything's marked out, I'll go back to the bench hook and cross cut the horizontal lines in the bench dogs. Then I'll take the dowel over to the bench vise and clamp it up and then make the rip cut down the vertical line. I don't make the vertical line perfect with the line I drew out. I make it angle in some so that there's kind of a point at the top. This way when I put it in the bench and I clamp down a board, it helps the bench dog bite into the board a little better. Now I'll take my chisel and clean up all the saw marks, and I'll also look at each dog that I cut, and if I don't feel like that angle was pronounced enough, I'll reshape it a little bit with my chisel here. To keep the bench dogs from falling out of the workbench when not in use, I'm using these bullet catches I picked up from the local hardware store. The bullet catches have these spring-loaded ball detents in them that when installed to the bench dogs will push up against the workbench and keep everything in place. To install the catches to the dowel, I'll start by making a 1/2 inch hole with a Forstner bit. It needs to be flat and just big enough to accommodate the lip on the bullet catch. Then I'll come back with a 3/8 inch Forstner bit and drill the rest of the way down. Then I can apply a little bit of super glue and put the bullet catch in the bench dog. Another way to do this is to mark out the width of a 1/2 inch chisel, create a few small saw curves that barely go down into the surface of the dowel. Clear that away with your chisel and that'll create the flat that the lip will sit on. And then you can repeat the steps of drilling out the 3/8 inch hole to accept the bullet catch. Both ways work well, just the trick is to make sure that you don't create the flat so deep into the dowel that the ball can't ride on the workbench when you're done. So after letting the glue set up for a couple of minutes, you can install the bench dogs into your workbench and give them a shot. As you can see here, these are pretty strong. I could put all my weight on this board, clamp down in the tail vise, and it's not moving. This has been a good method for me. I think I picked it up in a woodworking magazine somewhere a long time ago, but I like using round bench dogs because I can use hold fast and other stuff in the holes when I'm not using the bench dogs, and they work really well. So I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, consider giving me a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.